The best of the week on Relevant Radio.
A lot is going on Capitol Hill for the first time in at least 100 years, if not in the history of this country. The Speaker of the House has been voted out of office. I don't know if you've heard this or not. Representative Matt Gaetz of Florida. He brought a challenge to Kevin McCarthy's speakership because of this continuing resolution on the budget that McCarthy got passed at the last minute on Saturday night to cover the next 45 days of government funding. And Gaetz argued that, hey, there's been enough chaos since the 1990s because of this continuing resolution. So the Democrats, of course, they wanted this to happen so they can jump on board and take advantage of the chaos. The vote came amid all this backlash from far-right Republicans over McCarthy's perceived lack of loyalty to the former president, his recent cooperation with the Democrats. But there were a number of factors that contributed to his removal. One of those was the division that we're now seeing within the Republican Party. The party's increasingly split because of it has a moderate wing, and then it has a farther right wing. Right? McCarthy is seen by many as being too moderate right now. So another factor is that McCarthy's recent cooperation with the Democrats. I mean, he's worked with Democrats on a number of issues, including the passage of a bipartisan infrastructure bill and a gun safety bill, and that has upset some Republicans who believe that he should be maybe a little bit more confrontational with the Dems. The immediate trigger for his removal was a motion to vacate the chair, which was introduced by Gaetz from Florida, and that motion is rarely used. It's a procedural maneuver that can be used to force a vote to remove a speaker, and that's exactly what happened here. So we'll see what happens now in the days ahead. Maggie was just saying, I mean, what's going to happen next? This is a significant event in American politics. I think it's a sign of the deep division that we have, not just amongst parties, but even within parties. And it's too early to say what the long-term implications of his removal will be. But it's clear we're now at a crossroads, and this has all got to play out. A new speaker's got to be chosen. The party's going to decide whether or not it wants to be a big tent party that appears to a broad range of voters, or whether it's going to go down another lane. So we'll see what happens. My guest today, Dr. Paul Kengor, is here. This news was breaking as he was joining us. Dr. Kengor, of course, writes for the American Spectator. And Dr. Kengor, it's good to have you with me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. It's really historic, perhaps unprecedented, and really kind of a shocking thing. Orchestrated, I guess, by Matt Gaetz, and he's a very conservative Republican. He's a rabble-rouser. He's a rebel, and he found a way, I guess, to get his way, that is, to get McCarthy ousted. He did it with about a handful of his allies on the Republican side, maybe half dozen or so, and literally every single Democrat in the House. So I don't know exactly what this means or what happens next, but it's really, I think you'd have to consider it kind of a major act of internal party GOP sabotage. It's a pretty remarkable thing.
What was your thought on McCarthy's deal to keep the government open? You think he did the right thing?
I don't know. I mean, the whole government keep it open, shut down thing, this happens every few years. It's usually a bigger deal in Washington, but for the rest of the country outside of the District of Columbia, it's not that big of an issue. And everybody makes a big deal about it for a few weeks, sometimes even a few months. Sometimes it gets shut down, sometimes it doesn't. There's a lot of theatrics, histrionics, and then it eventually fizzles out. So it's nothing that I really ever concern myself with. I don't know if that's exactly the issue here for Gaetz. I think it's a lot more than that for Matt Gaetz. He thinks McCarthy's too much of a moderate, and I guess he thinks he's probably kind of a squish.
Yeah.
But, ask that to the Democrats. I mean, they wouldn't call McCarthy a moderate. They'd call him a conservative. And I think McCarthy's been pretty good for conservatives.
I wonder who'd want that position, though. I mean, you think about what's next for the speaker, right? I mean, 45 days will be here before you know it. The next speaker is going to have to cut a bigger deal for a full year of funding and try to negotiate with Democrats on dozens of hot button issues, including, policies on abortion and the border and so many other things. And, you all, of course, got Ukrainian aid as well. It's a top priority for Biden and for Mitch McConnell, amongst others. So can the speaker do anything without ending up in the middle of another effort to be removed? What do you see playing out next?
Probably a party line vote. So whoever it is, the Republicans are going to all have to rally around, whether it's, I don't think they go for Matt Gaetz. So I don't think Republicans would lose the speakership in that case. It's such a thankless job. But a lot of these politicians in D.C. are just addicted to power. I mean, we saw last week with the death of Dianne Feinstein. She was 90 years old, and it was no surprise whatsoever that she passed because she's been ailing, infirm, in a wheelchair for quite a while. She's had people doing all of her work for her.
Yeah.
But you look at somebody like Dianne Feinstein and wonder, why doesn't she just retire? What's the big deal? You're 90 years old. You've had an amazing life. You've been in the Senate forever. People who love their jobs eventually retire from them. Mitch McConnell too, right? Why not just step down? But I think it's part of the personality type of these people in Congress, in the House and in the Senate. They want power. They're attracted to it. They cling to it. I'd rather, when the day is over, 5 or 6 o'clock, stop my job and go home with my family and have dinner and kick back and relax. I don't want to engage in fights over government shutdowns, but for some of these people in Washington, this seems to be what they thrive on.
There's a lot going on too, Doc, just in the country
Right.
in general, to add this to the mix. Let's grab a call or two. If you want to join the conversation, the number is 888-914-9149. You can call now, 888-914-9149. Dr. Kengor, Ellen's got a comment. She's out of Queen Creek, Arizona. Hi, Ellen.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to ask both of you to possibly think about refraining from using buzzwords that the left has taught us to use that are associated with other things. For example, far right means women hating, abortion hating, freedom hating, crazy people. It isn't sabotage that's going on in our House of Representatives. They are saving this country.
Thank you.
Well, I would say when I meant sabotage, I mean an act of party sabotage, right, among the Republicans and party unity. You would never, for example, see the Democrats, even if they were unhappy with Nancy Pelosi, get a group of them that would come together and break ranks and break unity and find a way to drive Pelosi out of the leadership position, right? That never happened. But in this case, Gaetz was willing to pull that trigger on the Republican side. So I guess in defense of Ellen's point, Matt Gaetz is doing this because he thinks it's presumably best for the country, right, in his view, for where he's coming from politically and ideologically. I don't know that in his case it's a power trip. It's indeed an act of sabotage for the party internally. That's for sure.
Hey, this episode of the Drew Mariani Show is on the Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free. It's updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers. So don't delay. Download the app today. Thanks for listening.